Does hypnosis work? Such a great question. Actually, it's not really a great question. I'm going to tell you why. So I was in a Facebook group the other day and I was just scrolling. You know, I try not to get, I don't get into doom scrolling, but it was, I think it was in a personal development site that I was, or group that I'm in. And someone posed the question, does hypnosis work? And just scrolling through the answers, like 60, 75 people commented, because everyone has an opinion, right? Everyone knows something. And I had to laugh, and I wasn't laughing at the feedback. I didn't even read it all. And I wasn't laughing at the person who asked the question. I was laughing because it was the wrong question. It was just the wrong question. And so I'm going to tell you my take on it, and you can see if you agree or not. But I'm also going to tell you that my take is based on science and doing this stuff for over 25 years, almost 30, but I don't think it's quite 30. Numbers in me, I don't know. I don't pay attention to that. Here's the thing. People are hypnotized by the time they're 7 years old. And let's just look at before then, before they got to be 7 years old. They were alive in their grandmother's womb, which was the egg that would become their mother. And then their mother, they were an egg in their mother, which then would become their embryo. And then the mother went through the gestation period, and then the birth, and then the nurture versus nature. Okay, so you've been around a lot longer than however many years you are. You were literally, I don't care who you are, you were literally an egg in your grandmother's stomach when she was 5 months pregnant with your mother. That's just a fact. Interesting, right? So you've been around a lot longer than you might think. And the problem, you know, and when I first became very interested in the subconscious mind, it was when I decided, when I was in my undergrad, I was on the track to be a licensed therapist. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to continue with this. I changed to communications for my graduate studies because I knew that I was going to make a lot more difference in a lot more people's lives if I didn't have the regulation that comes with being a licensed therapist. Talk therapy very rarely works. And I'm going to tell you my opinion on why it very rarely works. Because talk therapy happens on a cognizant level. Now, when you start introducing other things into talk therapy, that includes mind-body, that includes energy work, okay. But here's the thing. Licensing boards are very, very strict on what you can include. Like you can't do any hands-on healing. So God forbid I use my radionics machine on anyone, or I do Reiki, right? You have to be very, very careful with that. So anyway, let's get back to hypnosis. We know now, I mean, I knew back then that hypnosis, people were hypnotized in life in general. So that's the right question. Are we all hypnotized? Yeah, the answer is yeah, unless you've done a ton of work. Because we are literally living in the sea of our hypnotherapy or hypnosis. Here's what I mean. I say I'm 7, 8 years old, and I answer two questions. These are two questions that every child has. How's the world out there? And who am I in it? Two questions. Fundamental questions of being a human. How's things? And how am I in those things? Is the world scary? Am I a victim? Is the world safe? Am I a victor? And all of us are dealing with some degree of this. And here's the thing. By the time you're 7 years old, you have a pretty good idea. A lot of this, again, happened ancestral and generationally before you even, hit the earth. But, of course, all of the experiences that you had up until you were several years old, all of the experiences you had and all of the messages you received from your parents and caretakers in society and school and peers, religious people, all of that played a role. So here you're 7 or 8 years old, and you have this idea, money doesn't grow on trees. You have that idea from all the things that have happened. Past generations, the way you were raised. So you're 7, 8 years old and you have this idea. Money doesn't grow on trees. So because that's a program running in your mind, now you're going to sit and you're going to look at the world, and everywhere you look, by the help of your default brain waves and your reticular activator system, it's going to show you money's hard to come by. Money, there's not enough money. And then you're going to say, oh, look, there's not enough money. And after years of that, after decades of that, you don't just have a neural network that says there's not enough money. You got a freaking oak tree in your brain. Like neural networks are little tiny spindles that fire and wire together, and then they make a network, like a spider's web. But we're talking about a big old gnarly oak tree if you have had that belief and have not changed it. And listen, hypnosis and hypnotherapy are wonderful. They're wonderful. It's a wonderful tool, but it has to be accompanied by certain things. And the certain things, I'm just going to lay it out for you because I want everyone to have this experience. I'm not selling anything here. I want you to have this experience so that you understand it. If you've got a big old gnarly oak tree in your brain, then you can't just listen to a hypnotherapy recording or pay for a couple sessions and be like, yeah, I'm good to go. 3 things have to happen. The first is that you have to dehypnotize yourself. You've got to start taking up that oak tree by the roots. Okay. People want to go to hypnotherapy and say, let me be rich. And so, you know, a hypnotherapist, and I'm certainly not pointing any fingers or throwing any shade at anybody. I don't even know a lot of hypnotherapists actually. But if they're like, oh, I can program you to be wealthy. No, they can't. Not if they're not deprogramming you, right? It's like if you have a glass and it's full of rocks and you're going to put water in it, but it's full of rocks, you've got to take some of those rocks out. And that's what we have to do with dehypnotizing. Just think of that oak tree. It's in there and it's strong. It's a really strong network. So you have to start with that. And so there are different ways that you can do that, and you can use hypnotherapy for that. But what you have to understand is when something goes into your unconscious mind, that's like 95, 98% of your thinking. And you don't see it. You don't see it because it's only in your environment. And you think that that's separate from you, and it's not. Your conscious brain, the 5%, is like, yeah, I really, really want to make $1 million this year. For sure. I definitely want that. But why do I keep not making $1 million? Why do I keep getting in trouble and owing money and having my car break down? Because your 2 minds, unconscious and conscious, are at war. And your unconscious is huge. It's the David and Goliath, right? Goliath is this big Well, how did David do it? Maybe David got hypnotherapy. I don't know. But what I do know is that when you take a mind-body approach, you can start to de-hypnotize yourself. And then you can replace that with new programming. So we have to get rid of the old programming, and then we have to install the new programming. And one of the things I think a lot of teachers fail to acknowledge, which is what I'm all about, is that this has to be accompanied by body. You cannot dissolve or reroute that oak tree neural network that's in your unconscious brain if you don't get into your unconscious brain. And whether you like it or not, your unconscious brain is your body. This is why talk therapy, you know, it's not going to do the job. Your unconscious mind is in your body. Think about it. How do your lungs breathe? How does your heart beat? How does the blood flow throughout your body? Are you doing that? Do you get up every morning and say, okay, let me make sure I breathe enough breaths today? No. Even your counting your steps won't do that for you, right? It can't control it. It's your body. And your body has an automatic nervous system. And when it's in sympathetic mode, your brain waves are high, your breath is shallow, you're worried a lot, you can't turn your thoughts off. Forget meditating. All that happens in that state is we think that we're separate from what's around us and that we have to work to get things done. When we are in the parasympathetic nervous system, which is also called rest and digest, the other one is fight or flee or freeze, but you get it. One's really stressed out and one's relaxed. When we're in that nervous system, and by the way, in the parasympathetic nervous system, that's what all the great yogis go to. That's how they can levitate. That's how they can sit in snow and melt the snow around them. People in the West think, oh, that's, I have seen things like that happen with my own eyes. I haven't seen anyone levitate, but I've seen someone melt snow. It's absolutely possible, but we in our Western society are so programmed to be in our sympathetic nervous system. And you cannot de-hypnotize yourself from that state of consciousness. You just can't do it. So if you want to use hypnotherapy or hypnosis to, say, create wealth or attract more clients, you have to start by de-hypnotizing yourself. And you can't get to that barrier between conscious and unconscious unless you turn your body into the parasympathetic, right? So we reduce our brain waves from beta, busy beta, to a deep alpha. And when I work with clients, I use my proprietary, whatever the word is, it's my stuff. I had it sound engineered. I use theta brainwaves. And you don't have to use mine. You don't have to work with me. You can go on YouTube. Just be really careful because theta waves are very difficult to measure because you cannot hear them. So that's why I used to just buy theta music and put music over it. But there's just so much out there and so many scammers out there. I have it sound engineered, so I know it's really theta. And what theta does, and binaural beats, is it causes your brain to relax into a light sleep. Even if you feel like you're awake, that's okay. That's what we want. That's how we program it. But it shuts off the sympathetic nervous system. You cannot be stressed out and relaxed at the same time. Understand that. You cannot be stressed out and relaxed at the same time. If you are, call me because that's really interesting and I would like to do some measurements on you. Seriously though, it has to start there. And if you notice, and this is not me being a conspiracy theorist at all, but if you notice, we live at a time of information overload. It's never been so easy. I can hop on AI and say, hey, tell me blah, 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 blah. I got the answers at my fingertips. I got 7,000 million friends all over the world just at the click of a button. I can text. I get phone calls. I have 3 phones. Why, in this age of information, easy access, are people so stressed out? Part of it has to do with 5G, if you want to know the truth. So you got to protect yourself in that way. But part of it has to do with the powers that be that want to keep us distracted and sick and broke. And one of the best ways to do that is to keep you from going into your theta brainwaves, your alpha brainwaves. It may sound crazy, but I'm just telling you. I've been studying this stuff for a really, really long time, and I've been working with it a really, really long time. People say, I want to go to hypnotherapy or hypnosis because I want to reprogram my mind. You have to access your mind. If you don't access your mind, you can't reprogram it. How can you reprogram it if you can't get to it? Does that make sense? If you can't get to that gnarly oak tree, all you're going to do is keep trying to plant little acorns to grow a new oak tree with your programs and instructions. I'm wealthy, I'm abundant, and you keep putting those little acorns in the ground, and they just keep coming up with every rain. It's like, yeah, that's not going to take root. You have to be able to access your unconscious mind, and we do that through our parasympathetic nervous system. meaning you relax your body, you relax your brainwave. We also do it through energy work. Right? Energy work, the biofield is very real. What's funny is a lot of people will call, if you do a Google search, what is a biofield? What is a human biofield? A lot of searches will come up and say, oh, it's pseudoscience. And what's really funny is your field of energy has been here before your body physically was. Even Albert Einstein says, matter doesn't inform energy, energy informs matter. So if you have a disease, it starts in your energy field. And by the way, every single disease is energetic and emotional. And that includes little children, and they get it from their parents, right? So it's very, very important, if nothing else. Like someone asked me on a podcast last year, what is the one message that you wish you could tell people? And the message is, please calm down and go in. And it sounds so like, oh, I'm a yogi. And it's not meant to be like that. But it is the answer. You cannot make any change in your external reality unless you first change it in your internal reality. And you cannot change it in your internal reality from a stressed out nervous system. You got to calm down. So hopefully you found that helpful. I have links below if you want to ask me any questions or check out my website. And I hope you have a beautiful day. Bye-bye for now.